absolutely incredible showing on a composition that ran 2 supports, 1 tank, and 2 carries. Won't get to see it here again today as the Karma is banned away. Jarvan also banned out. Golden Guardians paying a lot of respect towards Xmithie over here, trying to keep him off of those top-tier picks.
Yeah, trying to keep him off his easy mode engagers, but it's going to be hard to keep him off of also the Skarner and the Olaf. I kind of hope we see a little bit more Olaf with how teams are trying to ramp up towards the end of the year, where they're wanting to play more early game and run through some of these other scaling compositions that seem to be taking root in the LCS here, but you never know if that's what Team Liquid's going to have to go for.
Well, Team Liquid did decide to pay some respect towards the mid lane of Golden Guardians. It's the Anivia banned out, that trademark pick going back years and years for Froggen, and that leaves Golden Guardians open to pick up Tahm Kench as their first pick here, wanting to go for some strength in the bot lane to start things out.
Yeah, you never know what TL is going to end up picking against the Tahm Kench. They have done a few lane-dominant attempts, but it is hard to play all in against Tahm Kench. I think they might be discussing right now, do we really want to go Xayah Rakan? Is there another power pick we can have here? Once you have the Xayah, you're almost certainly going with the Rakan. So it's just a matter if they want to lock that in now or try and get a power pick like an Aurelia right here.
Well, looks like the Rakan will be the choice. Give him a little bit of time to feel out what else their opponents are going to be locking in response. Of course, with the Tahm Kench already picked up, it's not like they were going to be stealing Rakan away, but Golden Guardians, having banned out 2 of those S-tier junglers, will go for the 3rd one here in the Sylas, as well as completing the bottom lane with Varus.
Yeah, Contractz very comfortable on jungle Sylas. I do think Olaf is a good pick into it. If it's something Xmithie wanted to do, you can get some early invades off and actually beat him in pre-6 and post-6 fights, which is fairly rare. Still never know what we're going to see, though.
Team Liquid's baiting the fans here a little bit, but there we go. That's the one I wanted to see. Both sides going to go bottom lane and jungle in the first half of the draft here. They tried to eliminate, as you said, those easy mode engaged junglers. Nothing much easier than pointing and clicking that R button to drag someone to their doom.
Oh, man. You have probably cast more Skarner games as far as percentage of games casted than anyone else. I don't know how that happened.
Damn good feeling, sir.
Do you just like sneak in, understand which teams are most likely to pick Skarner, make sure you're doing those games?
Every time I run into Xmithie at any sort of party or celebration, I always say, good job on the Skarner. I want to see some more of that. And that's
positive reinforcement.
Yeah, exactly. We've got to support the things that we enjoy seeing here on the LCS stage, and I know what I like, my friend. And now we know what the teams don't like. Both of them going to be focusing on those solo lanes, as they are the only things left to pick up here. Gangplank banned out by Golden Guardians. They know what Impact is capable of doing on that champion. Team Liquid taking Kennen and Aurelia off the table.
Yeah, so many of the power picks actually banned in the second phase of the draft. Aurelia and Kennen are 2 picks that are very often blind picked, but Golden Guardians trying to keep a little bit of their composition shrouded in mystery. I believe it will still allow TL to get that counter pick probably for the mid lane, but you never know. They've done a lot more to prioritize picks for Impact this year than really in any years past.
Well, we're also going to see Akali taken off the table, so no ability for either side to play that assassin going into the back lines there, trying to find that burst damage. Team Liquid, 5 seconds left to make the pick. We'll see if they do leave that open for the mid lane counter pick. And yeah, that's going to be the play. Going to put Impact on that champion. We've seen so much of the Aatrox, just such a staple pick in the top side.
Absolutely, especially with the Kennen ban, the one thing that really seemed to successfully push in the Aatrox in certain matchups, and it was the most picked top laner for Hauntzer, also tied for the most picked top laner for Impact so far this split. So not only is it a good pick for Impact, it's a denial pick against Hauntzer.
Switching back and forth between... Okay! Now we are talking!
So this is super interesting because the Talon is probably going mid lane for Froggen. He hasn't played it yet this split, but this means you would want magic damage. They don't take it. The only real magic damage they'll have in their team composition is the Sylas, or if FBI decides to go for some type of on-hit Lucian build with the Wit's End because he can get a lot of magic damage with his E. You could probably sneak enough magic damage in, but it is heavily pushing physical.
And you know, when you're up against an enemy mid laner who is largely countered by the effects of Zhonya's Hourglass, you think about the Lissandra, but then you think, you know what? Today is not the day for Lissandra. Oh. It's assassin versus assassin, Dane versus Dane, Froggen versus Jensen in the mid lane, and I could not be happier.
I'm excited. I love watching Jensen play LeBlanc. It just brings me back to the old days where he was on C9 and everyone would be like, is Jensen good or does everyone just camp mid lane? And I'd be like, it doesn't matter, he's 6-0. Like, clearly both things are good. So I wonder if we're gonna see some repeated support roams up into the mid lane, because I actually think Rakan is a more powerful pre-6 ganker than the Skarner, and because TL's bottom lane is so powerful, it could give them some room to roam and really get Jensen going.
And talking about roams, my eyes are on Froggen with this Talon. I want to see how much Golden Guardians have practiced this pick. Anybody who knows Talon knows he doesn't win by sitting in lane and clearing waves and grabbing some levels. You got to move around the map, make those ganks happen, utilize the mobility that he has going over all those cliffs.
Yeah, Talon can be a great pick, especially if you're able to follow up on other people's engagement, which Golden Guardians is hoping to be able to combo with Varus's ultimate or something that Sylas steals.
Right. You've got a couple of tools in there. You don't have anything that's just completely let's go, like a Sejuani or a Jarvan, so they will have to be careful about that, but somebody in the audience there making sure that they're traveling for all the right reasons.
Yeah.
As we load into game number 1 here. Golden Guardians and Team Liquid, TL firmly at the top of the standings. Golden Guardians, one of those teams that has had both success and difficulty so far, seeing if maybe they can take down number 1.
Yeah, Golden Guardians, such an important week right now for them. They came into the week needing to pick up some wins. They were 6-6. I believe their standings are actually 6-7 right now, not 7-6, because they did fall to TSM yesterday. So they are trying to desperately avoid an 0-2 week here where they had a tough schedule of TSM and Team Liquid.
But let's not forget, it wasn't a game against TSM where they just got beaten badly. Golden Guardians were ahead for a lot of the game. It was TSM that managed to pull out sort of a miracle win there at the end by making sure they had Broken Blade in the right place at the right time. And even TSM's own players in both interviews and comments on social media afterwards said it wasn't exactly a win they were proud of. Golden Guardians played a lot of the game pretty well, just not well enough to walk away with the win. And if they can play the early game, at least to a degree like that, they could have a chance here.
Absolutely, and thinking about how Golden Guardians got that early lead on TSM yesterday, it was repeated ganks bottom lane. FBI and Huhi did a very good job bouncing turret aggro. They got first blood off of a level 3 dive in the bottom lane, so you do wonder if that's what Contractz is looking for. I would say probably not against Rakan, and they would more so look to combo around Renekton. We had a Jatt stat this morning. Renekton is the most picked top laner in the LPL, but this is actually now only the 4th time someone's played it in the summer split of the LCS.
You gotta love how volatile the LPL is, with everybody wanting to play these champions that can go so good or so bad in lane. And honestly, I'm really excited for that in both solo lanes here in this game, because it's not like somebody's just got some easy scaling meatball that can go low econ. You've got 2 assassins, you've got 2 big heavy bruisers in the top side. One advantage can be pushed incredibly if somebody's jungler decides to get involved and stay there. Yeah,
and so much of that has to do with the early jungle pathing or the early wave priority. Both junglers are going for the high XP clear. That's when you see red buff to Krugs. Not only are Krugs the highest level 1 camp, they actually have experience reduction at level 1. They're worth even more when you come back for them. So both junglers trying to get that out of the way as soon as possible. And Xmithie already trying to have an influence on this mid lane.
Froggen probably not having the ability to jump up the walls here early, so Xmithie seeing if maybe there's a chance for Froggen to try to jump in onto Jensen at level 2 and punish that, but there will not be any such opportunity. That means Xmithie can wiggle his way down to the bottom part of the map.
Contractz is free,
take
though.
Care of these camps. Contractz not going to find himself any sort of a stun there. Jensen, easy dodge away with a distortion.
Yeah, and now that was interesting because Xmithie was fairly telegraphed in what he did on the jungle side. You can see Contractz knowing he can fairly safely steal the Raptors right now since Xmithie walked through the mid lane.
Both of these junglers are starting off with the Hunter's Talisman, which means as long as you have AoE in the kit, the Raptors are an incredibly safe clear. Often you can heal up without taking any significant damage over the course of that fight. You saw it right there with Contractz. Xmithie will continue clearing through the bottom half of his jungle here, but with the bottom side of Team Liquid pushing up into the turret of FBI and Huhi, doesn't look like Xmithie's going to have any chances for any sort of involvement in these lanes.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see if you're just paying attention to the minimap like Team Liquid is, the bottom lane is so pushed up because they absolutely know where the Sylas is going to be. So there's absolutely zero threat of an early gank there, and they're trying to take full advantage.
Which I absolutely and wholeheartedly support. You're up against Tahm Kench, push him underneath the turret. Make him try to struggle a little bit to grab some of that farm. especially up against somebody like Varus. Looking at the keystones, you can see FBI with Comet on the Varus. Could be in some trouble here. He's going to be ignited, nearly taken down. First blood over to CoreJJ, burns him to ashes.
Yeah, and that was a combination of great play by CoreJJ and pretty sloppy play by the Golden Guardians. The wave was going to crash anyway. CoreJJ knew exactly where turret aggro would be, was probably about, I don't know, 10 units away from drawing turret aggro on the engage. Doesn't, gets the knock up onto FBI. FBI probably thought the engage wasn't gonna happen because A, he had a Tahm Kench standing next to him, B, he thought the turret would go on him, but CoreJJ gets the double knock up, so they get most of the damage out anyway. It's because CoreJJ positioned it so perfectly trying to catch both of them.
And the point I was going to make right as the engage came through, look at the keystone on FBI. That's Comet. That signals lethality Varus to me, which means if you fall behind early to a traditional crit marksman like a Xayah, your team's going to have a bad time keeping up in teamfight damage.
Woo!
Mid lane Jensen, he's all right. The clone goes underneath the turret to make sure that at least something falls over in this fight, but he'll survive. No summoner spells expended. Hauntzer and Impact might be getting into yet another 1v1 here in the top side. Hauntzer's able to find plenty of damage here to start things off, but Impact may just have his number, forcing out the flash.
Yeah, that was really close, and Hauntzer was wise to flash that since Impact would have been able to execute with a flash Q3. Huhi going in.
Going in for this 2v2. DoubleLift's going to be taken pretty low here. Huhi also going to be losing some health, but missing the tongue means DoubleLift walks away.
So close to getting it all in there. I do talk about how sneakily powerful the Tahm Kench all-in is. However, here comes Xmithie, flashless Tahm Kench.
Skarner's making his way into the fight. Huhi's already gone. FBI trying to get himself away. It's a 1-for-1 so far. Xmithie looking to escape Hauntzer as Impact also makes his way down into bottom lane to protect his jungler. It's a bloody one.
Strong teleport usage for both top laners, and even if you have these two really great gank assist top laners, they both using their teleports bottom lane to deal with DoubleLift and CoreJJ, as well as what just seems like this Golden Guardians addiction towards ganking bottom lane, where Hauntzer basically ends up playing this 1v1 game, matching teleports bottom. But we're going to watch this one more time, and basically Huhi just sees he's going to be able to get the eat off onto DoubleLift, exhaust him to get slow, uses his stick skin at the right time, and puts down all the damage, and right there, he flashes too far to be able to get the Q. And I believe prior to the 9.14 patch, really all he had to do was flash on top of DoubleLift, not past him, and the Q would just auto-hit. It has like a little...
it's an arc.
Yeah, it's like an arc in front of him as the tongue shoots out, so it actually would have been quite easy for Huhi to pick up that kill with a little bit more familiarity on Tahm Kench.
Bit of a costly misplay there, but Golden Guardians are still keeping themselves within a couple hundred gold of Team Liquid. Contractz not yet level 6. You can say the same for Xmithie. The Contractz and Hauntzer are going into enemy territory, capturing the Skarner Spire, setting down the control ward, and looking to take away that red buff. Froggen also rotating over to the back end of this red buff terrain, making sure he's there in case Team Liquid attempts to contest. Froggen will throw out the rake, but won't find a whole lot with it. Just the first half there onto Jensen, and Team Liquid will just concede that buff. Xmithie now has the ultimate ready to go. Predator also armed here, seeing if maybe there's an opportunity to make a pull. Won't find it.
And little stuff like we just saw there, as FBI takes a butt, he's dead.
Wow. Clean.
All right, so there's little stuff that TL does in the top side that I don't think necessarily gets that much credit because it's hard to see, and that's how they deal with enemy jungle pressure, like the fact that they only gave up red despite there being a 3v2 and was still able to secure Scuttle. Then there's more obvious stuff like this, where they just see a kill where clearly FBI didn't think it was possible, otherwise he wouldn't have stepped up that far, and it was free. That kind of is just LCS and even Worlds level experience that DoubleLift and CoreJJ have that FBI doesn't. He has to wait for that wave to crash. That's actually the second death he's had where he needs to just sit near his turret because he is actually in kill range and doesn't realize it.
Misplays from FBI adding up here in the early game. Team Liquid about a 1,500 gold lead up over the Golden Guardians. DoubleLift losing a little bit of health down here, but considering he's still got the ulti on the Xayah, he's not too afraid. CoreJJ does initiate, but because DoubleLift's only half HP, they don't want to go completely ham down here in the bottom lane in the 2 versus 2. Also, don't exactly have vision on where Contractz might be at the moment. Remember, both these junglers now level 6. With Sylas, it means so much because of all the different possibilities of ultimates he could steal. Sylas with a quickness from Rakan could be a very potent engage.
And speaking of control, there's actually a ward right on top of Sylas right now that he's going to be clearing out. So they didn't have river control if we're looking at what Team Liquid had in the river, but they did know exactly where that Sylas was going to be. So that's one of the reasons they were able to play so aggressively.
Looking at where everybody's measuring out here as we're about 9 minutes into the game, you can see small farm leads for Impact and Froggen in their respective solo lanes. Contractz also pulling ahead of Xmithie in the jungle here just a little bit, but bottom side things are definitely coming up Team Liquid as they've already got all 3 kills for their team in that bottom lane. 2 of those onto CoreJJ's Rakan, thanks to those ignites burning away their opponents. But this is definitely a man that you're not too sad about having gold on, even if he is a support, because we've seen him make so many plays for the side of Team Liquid. Getting him online and just having him a little bit more capable of making those moves never feels too bad.
And CoreJJ knows exactly what to do with an early Sightstone. We watched him running through the jungle, but if you look at what he did with his 3 Sightstone wards, he got one there, there, and there. The 3 perfect bot side jungle camps. So they don't necessarily need river control, because if he ever walks through that jungle, they'll know where he will probably be, and they'll still have this spot up here covered. So using the kills to get the early Sightstone, to then get the wards down, it's all about playing your advantages forward, and that's really how you become a great team.
One of those moments where the AD carry says, all right, I would have liked to have the kills, but I guess I'll let it pass this time. DoubleLift and CoreJJ sitting comfortably down there. As we take a look back at the mid lane, Froggen's Talon, I said in Champion Select, I want to see him get out of the lane. I want to see him find opportunities to roam. We haven't seen any of those yet. Almost level 9 here on this champion, so we'll have the maximum wave clear potential. Xmithie here in the bottom lane, seeing if maybe there's a play to make. Gonna clear out a control ward instead. Also worth noting, if you look at Froggen, he went straight for the Hex Drinker for the 1v1 against Jensen, not going for the early Tiamat that we often see on the champion to help make those roams and shoves better. Now it's gonna be a 2 versus 2. Jensen gets himself away. Contractz going right back in here onto Xmithie. Contractz has already stolen the LeBlanc ultimate, meaning he cannot take the Skarner grab, and both sides walk out.
Yeah, and this is why I like the LeBlanc pick into the Talon. In other matchups, Talon can absolutely go with the Tiamat, and that's how he's able to get the threat bottom. Or he can actually rush lethality without Tiamat, and then he has kill pressure on the opponent, so he'll get wave pressure anyway. However, in this specific matchup, since the LeBlanc has kill pressure on him as well, Froggen opts to be the first one to kind of lose the game of chicken. He says, okay, I'll play defensive, which means he's not going to get wave shove and not going to be able to take advantage of a lot of his champion strengths.
Now that wave shove has come online, it was a little bit delayed, but he didn't want to opt out of it completely. Sometimes we see that, this time we won't. Using the Tiamat to try to clear these minions out of the way, but now he's got both Jensen and Xmithie after him, having to pop the flash to make sure he gets away from the chain in time so that Xmithie's not able to chase him down. Froggen escapes on that one, but with the flash now down and Xmithie having his ready to go, this could signal a return gank here soon from Team Liquid, or it could just try to make something happen down here on the bottom side instead. For Xmithie, remember, you cannot go for a pull onto FBI with Huhi nearby. Tahm Kench can just eat anyone out of the Skarner ultimate. But that does mean that Team Liquid's bottom lane has more free firing time onto this tier 1 turret that they've almost taken all 5 plays on.
Yeah, and I'm really interested to see what happens from here, because the Rift Herald is being taken very quickly by Golden Guardians. The bottom lane is a lost cause, and they have about a minute and a half now to try and get 2 or 3 retaliation plays. They actually try and fight for that turret, which, let's see how it works out.
FBI and Huhi doing a decent job in the 2v2 here so far. DoubleLift's gonna be forced away, but now the bottom lane is once again in trouble, and they will be slammed into the ground. CoreJJ walks out. Huhi will fall here in just a moment. Both kills go over to Impact, making that teleport worthwhile.
Sometimes you gotta know when to throw in the towel bottom lane, and Huhi and FBI have not quite mastered that art, to say the least. They should have just given up the turret. There was clearly a top side, weak side differential in this game. It is not FBI and Huhi's time to make a play. They try and make the play. Team Liquid knows they're not doing anything topside. They expend a teleport bot. They pick up 2 kills and the turret, and that snowballs them a little bit.
I mean, you look at a team and you see a weakness and you would call it an Achilles heel. The bottom side of Golden Guardians is Achilles' whole damn leg right now. They're just not giving the rest of the team an opportunity to fight on even ground because of these repeated mistakes and overstays and overextensions. And Team Liquid is not the kind of team that's just gonna let that fly and not punish.
Yeah, let's watch this one more time as we see Huhi. He lands the Q, So he figures he's got to go for it. FBI comboed with the ultimate as well, but DoubleLift and CoreJJ buy enough time, and specifically the patience that they have with their defensive cooldown. So DoubleLift flashing right before he get eaten, and then CoreJJ also having a stopwatch at that exact moment. And we're gonna get a replay.
No, the Skarner! He fades away and falls at the very end. I was hoping at least if he was dead, we would come back in time to not have to see the violence, but Xmithie will fall there.
Well, they did kill Froggen in the process, but Froggen got one back.
It's a 1-for-1, yeah. Froggen was at least able to find his revenge there, so a little bit of justice for the Golden Guardians. We'll probably see that one here in a replay after we finish seeing if the Golden Guardians can make a push here in mid lane, but it doesn't quite look like it. Nothing to really to happen.
Yeah, looking to see that replay again because Froggen and Hauntzer are playing quite well in this instance, and it is the 5-death bottom lane that's holding them down. That's mostly been the story of their split, which is why we've seen two different laners, but here they go.
Hauntzer going in, trying to initiate on to CoreJJ and DoubleLift. 80 carries already down, support having to try to get away now. CoreJJ manages to escape utilizing the ulti, but that's a nice pick up there for the Golden Guardians.
Yeah, definitely catching Team Liquid in a rotation as they're trying to help out Jensen mid, who was low on mana and not wanting to let that turret get chipped down, but Hauntzer making his impact felt on the map. We're gonna see the 1-for-1 from earlier right here. Xmithie pretty low when he goes for this, but does flash over the Varus. Ends up taking a lot of damage from Froggen's Talon ultimate, the Ignite and the Bleed, barely taking him down into this one where the lack of river vision finally comes back to haunt TL a little bit. They had all those deep wards in the red side jungle, but didn't have them in the river, and Hauntzer sneaks up on him.
Team Liquid currently almost 2,000 gold ahead of their opponents. When we checked in earlier, it was a little under 1,500. So although that lead continues building up, Golden Guardians aren't exactly bleeding out just yet. Looking at the inventory of Hauntzer, went ahead with the Phage, but now also has the BF sword to just build more towards the Spear of Shojin immediately instead of completing Black Cleaver first. Wants to make sure that he's got that cooldown reset capability to win out, not only in 1v1s, but also have a bigger presence in team fights.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing those guys try and duel in the side lanes. It's going to be very ultimate reliant for Hauntzer, especially once he does get that Spear of Shojin, and the fact that Impact has been able to pick up 2 kills with teleports allows him to get that side lane priority on the Aatrox. Froggen is flying around the map though.
Froggen trying to do what he can to get into this bottom lane in time, but Impact's able to get back. Team Liquid communicating exactly where this Talon is likely to be, making sure they don't get caught off guard by this. One of the biggest counters to Talon is always going to be information. Contractz goes forward, but now he's rooted up. Huhi with a good devour, keeping him safe. Both of those Golden Guardians are going to walk away. A little bit worse for wear, taking some damage there. CoreJJ and DoubleLift doing a great job defending 2v4.
Yeah, and trying to look ahead a little bit where this game is going. It's really on TL to pay a lot of attention to where Froggen goes. Froggen is at a point of power with the Tiamat to get wave shove, one lethality item with the Moby Boots where he can do the majority of a Squishy's health if he arrives, or be the difference maker in the bruiser 1v1 you'd see in the top lane. For the most part, Jensen did see him up top lane, but if he uses too many cooldowns, Froggen's going to want to come out, and that's why Xmithie is here.
Froggen shows up immediately, and there is your counter-attack. Xmithie chain CCing that enemy mid laner, nearly able to take him down. Contract's going to grab Jensen there too, and Froggen gets away. Golden Guardians turn around on the turnaround and manage to get themselves away with a 1-for-0 so far. More backups going to be coming in. DoubleLift trying to get himself around on this one as CoreJJ barely is going to escape. Xmithie doing the same. It's so many critical health bars, but no one's dead.
That was actually really sweet. The counter game from Golden Guardians. Baits on baits. That was very close for both teams, and they're trying something else. This one might be pushing it.
Contractz goes in, he gets the heal off the Kingslayer. Yeah. He ends up just giving away 300 gold. That was just too ambitious.
That could be said about many Golden Guardians plays this game, Captain Flowers. Too ambitious. And the ambition is contagious with these guys, because they just had one of them finally work out. They say, okay, Froggen, wait in this brush. We think there's a counter gank coming. That's why Contractz is here to also counter gank, able to kill Jensen on the runaway. And then this was a really close fight where both teams were kind of trying to go for other kills. DoubleLift steps up, Contractz wants to go in. They know FBI is running through. He has the speed shrine. And specifically, you know, watch how well, and I'm going to end up saying this a lot every time I cross a TL game, how well CoreJJ manages his resources. He always seems to jump away with about 50 health or have the perfect timing on stopwatch, and he just gets away on that one.
People like to meme a lot about calculations in League of Legends. This is a man that actually makes them and makes them count. Flash going to be expended there, I believe. Nope, just going to be the distortion coming out from the LeBlanc over the wall. Both sides have expended plenty of summoner spells over the course of these past couple of fights, but Xmithie's one guy I'm looking at. Flash, Predator, Ultimate, ready to go here on the Skarner. Initiation potential is in the pocket of Team Liquid, but they've really got to respect Huhi. As long as that Tahm Kench is ready with Devour, Skarner's engage potential is incredibly limited. Xmithie moving forward now. They've got the Skarner Spire captured, which means extra movement speed, attack speed, and pretty much infinite mana on top of that zone as well. Xmithie's still looking to make some sort of an initiation, but not going to find it.
And watch FBI's Varus Qs. They're long cooldown spells. He's only landed one. The more he can poke, the more Golden Guardians will be able to fight.
Nice chain of corruption with a stolen Skarner ulti, but now Team Liquid's looking to turn it right back around. Jensen's able to grab the first kill onto FBI. Huhi going to be taken down next. Hauntzer barely getting himself away. Impacted hot for Stoop, and the man's on a killing spree. Froggen's going to do some fancy gymnastics, but are you fancy enough to get away from death itself? Yep, looks like it.
Yep, he can jump over a lot of walls. But that fight was just a difference in coordination between Team Liquid and Golden Guardians. Liquid stayed grouped up around the Infernal Drake, and Guardians actually went for a fight before poke had landed and also before Talon was in range to start the fight. So a huge win for Team Liquid here. Taking the Drake, taking the fight, and probably taking the mid-turret.
And Impact looking to take down Froggen up here.
That was a long chase.
Froggen eating a lot of damage, but Impact knows he can't go any further just yet. Mid lane tier 1 falls. That is the second turret of the game that Team Liquid has eliminated. And you can see everything about the gold difference, despite the undulations it has had, is nothing but red.
Yeah, it is probably broken open for Team Liquid at this point, knowing how good they are at actually closing out games. Team Liquid actually has the lowest average game time of LCS teams, but looking at this fight, the big thing to point out is, look at Froggen. He's over here in the mid lane. That's not the time to fight, but we have FBI chunked down once again.
Burning away, but it's actually a relic shield proc from Huhi killing a minion that heals FBI enough to live through the last tick of the Ignite. That's some support play right there.
Got the Ignite off. Worked.
Worked, exactly. You managed to make it happen, but now you've got Death's Dance plus Cleaver completed for Impact's Aatrox. Hauntzer went ahead and completed the entirety of the Black Cleaver, still working on that Spear of Shojin himself, so won't quite have that. And look at Xmithie's inventory. Yet another initiation tool, the Righteous Glory completed, and you mentioned in Champ Select, the only AP damage on the side of the Golden Guardians is Contractz.
Yeah.
Building armor, building Righteous Glory plus Ninja Tabby plus Cinderhulk, this Skarner is incredibly hard to kill.
Yeah, and armor is even more effective going up against a lethality Varus.
Oh. Talking about lethality, though, Froggen's going to insta-give Jensen. One more tick should do it, but that tick will not be. As Xmithie walks up, starts to try to fight him a little bit, but doesn't exactly want to go any deeper. Bottom side's also going to be a 1v1. Ultimate used only by Hauntzer, considering Impact still has his own. Might leave an opportunity to make something happen here in the next few seconds. After that one dissipates away from the Renekton. Contractz trying to get that Skarner ultimate whenever he can for the extra initiation potential, but Golden Guardians continue to play this game on their back foot.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one for Golden Guardians to come back from. It'll be very important when Huhi can complete QSS, which he just did on that last recall. That does limit the amount of Team Liquid initiation they can force, even with all of that stuff. But doubling back towards the item point we were trying to make, I really wish FBI had gone with an on-hit build. I understand you go lethality when you're in a losing matchup to try and hold on, but it really just hurts the rest of the team composition scale.
Xmithie's now fighting 1v1 that's quickly going to turn into a 5v1 if he's not careful, but over the wall comes Jensen. Golden Guardians lose their AD carry thanks to the Team Liquid duo of mid and jungle, and the rest of the team has shown up. Golden Guardians are on the run. Huhi's the one who's caught at the very end, but he still managed to get himself away. Team Liquid pushing onto the tier 2 there in the mid lane. It was only a moment ago I said they had taken 2 turrets. Now they got 5.
They are on an absolute roll. Next step will likely be set up around Baron. However, when you see an Infernal Drake coming up in 90 seconds, you may just say, we can take our time, get the Infernal first, increase our one-shot potential. Let's watch this one more time. FBI just having a really rough game. They lost some stuff in the laning phase. He's trying to stay far behind his front line because he's like, okay, I'm lethality Varus, guys. I need to back up. However, the further he lags behind, the further he is away from his teammates anyway, and then he just gets caught again in this jungle.
Hauntzer jumping out here, trying to find a bunch of burst damage on to Jensen. He knows Jensen doesn't have an ignite. Jensen moved back and manages to get the kill with a cheeky stopwatch.
Oh, man. That was a fun duel. Hauntzer thought he knew his limits with Renekton, able to proc the LeBlanc passive from very low health, but Jensen takes the distortion back at the last second, ticks him with ignite, stopwatches to make sure Renekton can't do anything about it, and just a beautiful kill there by Jensen.
Well done by Jensen to outplay the Croc, and now Golden Guardians have yet another dead member here for the next 15 seconds. Control over the map has been Team Liquid's non-stop. That's not changing anytime soon, and you can really tell the story of the game by the ward lines. If you're looking at where the Team Liquid wards are, they're far up in the enemy jungle. They're zoning everybody away, making that map darker and darker, while Golden Guardians just struggle to get any control outside of their own baseline. And now Team Liquid is looking at that last remaining tier 2. Clear that off of the map, and then it's easy Baron taking time.
Guardians going for a fight.
Away. FBI throwing out the chains of corruption, but Golden Guardians are about to lose Contractz here at the very beginning. Going to be kept alive by the stasis. FBI's already down, and it's a 5v3 at best for the Golden Guardians. Double kill for DoubleLift. Froggen's going over the wall, but where is he possibly going to run? Gets himself invisible just to get away. Team Liquid's not able to pursue him, but who needs to? Baron's on the menu.
Classic question of who is flanking whom in these cases, because Hauntzer got in with the teleport, Huhi jumped into the Tahm Kench ult, and all that told Team Liquid is, hey, 5v3 if we turret dive. So they just went straight forward, killed Contractz and FBI once again, get a Baron for their troubles, and Golden Guardians, just take the Infernal Drake. Please, stop trying to think about another two-man flank.
Golden Guardians will at least secure themselves an Infernal. One very thin silver lining on the dark cloud that is plays like this.
Yep, so as you see, Tahm, Kench, Renekton, and Froggen all thinking about the flank, and they forgot about the rest of the team. DoubleLift and CoreJJ know exactly where to go, make short work of the jungler and the AD carry, and then very easily kill the solo flanking Tahm.
1 and 10 for the bottom lane of Golden Guardians. Contractz 1 and 3 now on the Sylas. Everything Team Liquid wants to happen is happening. Froggen about to fall now here as well. That's been the one thing that's been slippery for them. They'll finally grab the kill onto him. Xmithie gonna fall here in the base, but it'll ultimately just be a 1-for-5 as Team Liquid cleans out the rest of the Guardians and goes for the game push.
Yeah, and this is gonna be 2 sub-30-minute wins this week for Team Liquid, Captain Flowers. This win will clinch them officially a playoff berth. Not that that was ever really in doubt for this Team Liquid team, but they mentioned wanting to take care of business here in the summer split, and they do so this week.
Golden Guardians Nexus falls 27 minutes into the game, and Team Liquid continues to show why they're #1.
Incredibly solid win for Team Liquid. The strengths of Golden Guardians exist in their solo lanes. Team Liquid just held completely even though sometimes you could say with Jensen and Impact, let's try and play through those. They don't have to. They smash the bottom lane. They attack Golden Guardians where their 2 most inexperienced players are. They take that turret, and then they never look back. It was all about the wards. It was all about the transitions, every team fight. It goes to show why they've won 3 splits in a row.
That bottom lane difference just in 2v2 was one of the most stark that I have seen in a long time. It was just a pure outclassing on a mechanical level, on a decision-making level. Everything was in the favor of Team Liquid that time around, and FBI and Huhi are going to have some VOD review to do after this.
Yeah, it is a tall order. I mean, you have the last year's worth of MVPs laning together. DoubleLift 2018 summer, CoreJJ 2019 spring. It's impressive. That's why this Team Liquid team is first in the league.
And they just keep getting better and better. It seems like, I mean, for the longest time, and Team Liquid was also a part of this, I feel like, when they first came together and started winning the first of their 3 splits in a row, they kind of fell into that same rut of the best North American team is also the slowest North American team that just wins by outscaling because they have better players. But this team has done such a good job of saying, no, we don't want to be that. We want to be better in the early game. They've refined and focused on having a better early game and a more decisive mid game, and I think it's working wonders here.
And I think that's really important to talk about because they are playing faster. They don't need to draft faster, which is kind of a cool thing. I look at the composition they played yesterday. It was a bunch of shielders and tanks. Old Team Liquid, you'd think, oh, this would be a 42-minute snoozer. And while the game was boring because it was low kills, they still won in under 30 minutes.
Right.
And then in this one as well, it's not like they picked this overwhelming amount of Caitlyn early game power. They just won fast because they've been working on playing clean.
Right, we didn't need to see 5 items on the Xayah for the Nexus to explode. Team Liquid had a very convincing one here today, and for more on it, Pastry is standing by for an interview with Team Liquid's Dane in the mid lane. Take it away.
Thank you very much. Yes, I am here with Team Liquid's Jensen, as TL have officially been the first team to clinch playoffs for summer 2019. I can tell you really thought about it a lot before this match. I want to ask you, though, about the mid lane matchup there, because we've seen a lot of not so exciting stuff, but LeBlanc into Talon. Can you tell me about that matchup and kind of your thoughts on it?
I've never really played this matchup before. I played it a bit in solo queue, but I thought it just makes sense because Talon is an assassin that wants to go in, and then once he jumps in, LeBlanc can kind of counter that, and we have Skarner too, so it's really hard for Talon to do anything in teamfights, so it was just a pick that made the most sense to me.
You can tell that Team Liquid's kind of been doing a lot of different experimentation, kind of really ramping up, still holding into that first place, but as someone that has now won a championship and is kind of making another leap into playoffs, is the season that different for you now that you've already won?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I would say I put a lot more weight on regular season in the past, but now I'm mostly just thinking long term. I'm not like, it's not that I don't care about the regular season, it's just I don't put as much weight on it. I don't care if we have super good standings. I care more about the long-term growth of the team and just making sure that we're able to play, any sort of styles, even if it means experimenting a little bit and trying some new stuff and, losing a few games because of it. So yeah, mainly just focusing on playoffs now.
And with that focus onto playoffs, now clinching a berth at least into the top 6, and of course looking for that bye, who do you think is going to be your biggest challenge kind of ending through the season and then moving into playoffs?
That's a tough question. I'd probably say ourselves. I don't really think any of the teams look super amazing right now, so it's hard to say. I mean, usually TSM does pretty well towards the end of the season, and same with C9, so those are always 2 teams that you kind of look out for, but right now, I don't really think there's any team that really challenges us too much.
That's a good answer. Thank you so much for talking to me. Congratulations on the win today. We're going to throw things back now to wrap it up at the State Farm Analyst Desk.
Thank you very much, Pastry Time. Team Liquid, the first to clinch a playoff spot, although, as mentioned by Jatt, that was really never in question when it comes to our defending spring split champions, but they've done it. They're in, and they do it with a victory over the Golden Guardians, one of our bubble teams, right, trying to make it into that final, 6th playoff position. So I want to dive into draft because a few interesting things happened here. Number one is that we had the double assassin mid lane matchup. But perhaps more peculiar would be that Tahm Kench first pick that you would attribute to the old version of Golden Guardians.
Yeah, the old Golden Guardians would have Deathly and Olay play safe in the bottom lane and specifically run Varus and Tahm Kench. This was their bread and butter, and suddenly now you're running the exact same bottom lane with the guys that you're trying to camp, that you wanted them to be a lot more aggressive like we saw yesterday. So is there a chance they forgot that they were playing with FBI and Huhi instead of Deathly Olay here? Because this would have worked if it was the other bot laner.
Well, it's also, they might have forgot that there was a Skarner that they were playing against as well. You heard Jensen in the interview saying, I was surprised, he picked Talon when we had Skarner, so it's kind of hard for him to do things. And we saw that yesterday as well when the Zed, people keep picking assassins into Skarner.
It's super solo lane focused. Renekton, Talon, this is go solo lanes forever, never touch bottom lane. So it was so bizarre to see the attention go towards the bottom lane.
I think that's what makes it more peculiar, right? Okay, fine, you threw us a curveball in draft. You're not drafting for winning bot lane. lanes anymore, but as long as you play towards that, it's going to make perfect sense. No, not what happened. All the attention goes to the bot lane, as would be expected of these teams from the outset. And of course, when you're looking across the rift at CoreJJ, DoubleLift, and Xmithie as the three that you have to challenge in the bot lane, you are quite literally doomed.
Well, not only did CoreJJ and DoubleLift find multiple solo kills in the bottom lane, in fact, most of the attention in the bottom lane was given by Xmithie and not from Contractz. So the jungler from Team Liquid was much more involved. This would have been really nice. This could have actually turned a lot around for Golden Guardians if the Tongue Lash would have connected. In fact, I don't even think he needed to be this aggressive at this time. He might have been able to wait a little bit.
Yeah, that does sting, right? Because it's a minor mechanical thing, and that you mentioned, if that kill does go over to them, it could spell a very different early game for Golden Guardians. But here's the return for TL, Xmithie, and CoreJJ putting in work here, trading the 1-for-1.
Well, so this is one of the problems I was having with their bot lane was you picked a defensive bot lane, but then they kept taking fights. You know, like they're going aggressive in these. So it's not like, oh, we're getting a ton of resources. It's like you're not playing to your win conditions. Here, your entire team, all 3 other members were on the Rift Herald, and you take an all-in. Yes, it's right in front of your turret, but the turret has no HP.
Turret's got no HP.
So, of course, the TP comes in, the roam's coming down, Jensen still had an inside track on Talon if he was even needed, and you're fighting to the death to protect the turret. You're not playing weak side of the map at all. You're fighting like you're going to get all the resources.
So sack that turret, let the Rift Herald go top lane, and just make it a trade as opposed to trying to hold on
That might be an indication that this bottom lane really just demands attention non-stop, and they're going bottom just to try to make sure that this doesn't happen.
And they weren't, I don't know if they were demanding it in game in terms of communication,
not that way.
But they were playing like it, like that's their only play style is if you trade with me, I'm going to hit you back. And that seems to be the only way that they can approach the laning phase, which when you're playing TK Varus without getting that much jungler attention, it's not going to go that well, especially against the best bot lane in the league.
Right, and only diving this deep into the bot lane because of our discussions at the beginning of the day when we talked about those bubble teams, the ones who are trying to secure the final playoff positioning, Golden Guardians being one of those. And we so much discussed the idea that, hey, we love this bot lane focus you guys have landed on, this aggressive style with FBI and Huhi. Put Huhi on playmakers, let him roam once they get control. Keep indexing into this style. Keep refining this play style. And then the first game after that, it's a huge departure and a loss.
Yeah, it's bizarre, but I think that Golden Guardians is at least somehow coming up with better ideas than last time around, because if they were to have focused the top and middle parts of the map, this could have been a very different game. So the draft does give some promise for the Golden Guardians.
Right.
Well, and to be fair to Golden Guardians as well, you're playing the #1 team in the league. I'm disappointed with the way that they lost because later on in the game, they found a couple scrappy fights that actually pulled the gold lead back to closer before they ended up losing the game. And so it's one of these games where I watch the early game. Like, if you just played the early game like your comp said it should have been played, you could have actually maybe not. It still would have been a hard win, but like you were close to having a really competitive game versus TL.
Another thing about the comp that's actually pretty rough to get around is the fact that you don't have a lot of magic damage. Sylas is not the like, oh my god, so much magic that there's a Skarner, right? You take him out right away, it's all AD. The armor stacking can be really easy. Zhonya's rushes, Ninja Tabis all around. So it's pretty difficult to navigate if you fall behind.
All right, well, TL locks it up here with a win over the Golden Guardians. Golden Guardians, not necessarily worse for wear, still sitting in 6th position. Up next, Counterlogic Gaming looks to take down 2nd place, Cloud9. We'll see you here after the break.